From the old dirt roads to the paved town streets to the sugar plantation no longer in use, a reigning monument of its legacy, the Waialua area, located on the north shore of Oahu in Hawaii, is a cultural place of rich history and cultural significance. This is my home. As there are many communities on the island of Oahu, Waialua stands as one of the older communities of the island.
The interesting thing to me is that this area was not the first part of Oahu settled, but it was settled probably by about 1300 AD. The Ali'i came in from Tahiti, and the prior settlers were then controlled by the Ali'i that came in from Tahiti. And the heiau where they came here, Kapu Kapua Hekea Heiau, is right nearby Kayaka Park.
It is from this encounter that brought about seismic changes.
A small amount of land could create a lot of food. And because we have 7 rivers coming down all from the Ko'olau Mountains coming down here, and they all kind of converge in this area. So there's a lot of wetlands, there's freshwater springs coming up. So for them, the low wetlands were the best place to grow food. And so the kalo fields around here were extremely productive. And when the Western explorers first came along here, they estimated the population at around 8,000 along this coastline. And so those people were all fed. And then there was plenty of surplus food for the rest of the island. So this area was known as an Aina Momona, or a fat land, or a productive land.
Long before the first skyscrapers graced Honolulu's skyline, Waialua was already alive with the rhythm of hard work and shared dreams. Immigrants from far-flung corners of the world toiled side by side, cultivating sugarcane that would sweeten the lives of generations. This shared struggle forged bonds that transcended cultural boundaries.
The history of Waialua was changed a lot by, of course, the sugar companies. So it ended up in the 1880s, Robert Halstead and Gordon, a guy named Gordon, they got a hold of the farm that Castle and Cook had taken away. It came to be known as the Halstead Mill, or the Halstead Plantation. You can see the old stack over there by Thompson Corner. And the way they were handling sugar cane was they would grow it in the fields, and then they would cut it, and then to get it out of the field, they would make wooden sluices, like wooden channels, and they'd line them all up the hill, and they'd put the cut pieces there and run water down the sluice, and the water would carry it down into the river, and then it would float down the river, and then they could pull it out of the river and with their ox carts bring it up and clean it up and put it in the mill and make sugar out of it. They got the railroad all the way out here and all the way to Kahuku in 1898. And then they built a brand new mill out of steel. They built a steel mill. And people don't sometimes realize that, the Eiffel Tower was only 1888, right? So the use of all steel construction was a fairly new thing. So within 10 years, they built the mill out of steel.
My dad, he was a lifer. He worked there his whole life. He is an immigrant from the Philippines. He was an immigrant from the Philippines. He came here when he was only 15 years old. He really made his way up pretty much, to the top. He didn't give up, And so I feel the plantation, and as far as my family is concerned, the plantation did very well for us. Of course, for a lot of our uncles, some of our aunties.
Everybody had a job. There was nobody that didn't have a job. If you didn't have a job and you wanted to work, they'd find a job for you, right? So by the early 20s, a lot of these groups had gotten together, and there was a huge strike all over the islands with the Filipinos and the Japanese got together, and they all struck at once, and it was a long strike, and they closed all of them went on strike. When they finally settled the strike, they were able to come back to their homes. And at first, at least at Waialua, as far as I understand it, they didn't get a raise, but within a year they got raises. And a lot of the women stopped going to the fields. They said enough of that. And a lot of people that either got in trouble from the other strikers because they didn't want to strike, like scabs, or people that got sick of doing that kind of work, they moved over and they started Haleiwa Town.
Even if they had to work hard, they still had fun working with each other. They had a good fellowship with one another.
When they closed the plantation, they were going to have an event to sort of close it out and have everybody was showing up. And the guys were up in the fields with a crane and one of those turn-a-haulers, and the crane was loading it, and the guy driving it was going, I don't really want to drive it back there, because he knew it was going to be like a crowd scene and he was going to be like the guy bringing it back. So the crane operator goes, well, I'll drive it. So he jumps in, drives it down. It turns out the crane operator was the son of the man who first drove the first turn-a-hauler out of there. So, those long family traditions of working with the plantation meant a lot to people.
Because of that, the community pretty much, you can see it fell apart, because now they don't have employment, and now where are they going to get their income? Where are they going to get their money to support their family and pay their bills and have a lifestyle? So what happened? They had to move away. A lot of people had to find jobs in Honolulu, in town, or elsewhere other than Waialua.
After the sugar mill closed down, many families found jobs elsewhere and sadly had to move away. And most of my grandma's and grandpa's neighbors passed away. Their kids grew up and moved away and sold their homes. So most of her neighbors now are from the mainland or South America.
And most of the people didn't have pets at that time. When we first came, we had a dog, a Weimaraner, and everybody was scared of her. They were not accustomed to having dogs. So that was interesting. But now everybody has a dog, and I think that's one of the reasons that there's so many fences. So that's cut off communication, because it's a barrier. So you can't just walk into somebody's yard and talk to them, unless you really know them and they're expecting you. So
it changed the whole feeling almost, that from a family kind of community, it changed to a more outside, people from outside coming in, and we had to develop a different type of community. It's a different feeling, that when it changed to that. We are a tight-knit community still, even though it has the climate it has changed a little bit. The look has a little bit different appearance. I think the foundation is still there. We still have people that find Waialua as their life, where they grew up, and they still feel proud and they have pride in this place.
Because it was a small town, it was a close community. Almost everyone knew each other because our families grew up connected to the sugar mill. Either our parents or grandparents worked there, and we all knew our neighbors. They were like family.
And it was such a safe community. Nobody worried about letting your kid walk to school or anything. The bus did pick us up, but a lot of the kids did walk to school. It was a simple life. We would walk, for example, from where the hospital was at the end of Kupahu Street to Fujioka's, and we were like 8, 6, and 3. 3 years old, and we would always walk down there to get crack seed or whatever.
Till today, you see people a lot my age now that see things happening that was so important in our days that they want to revive it. They want to keep it going. Like the plantation had a social hall. They call it an annex. And today they want to reconstruct it, want to rebuild it, and they restore it so that it can become something useful again, and not get torn down and forgotten about.
Even though I live in Waialua, when people ask me, where are you from? I always say I'm from Waialua because that is the community that shaped me to who I am today. And people always say that people from Waialua are nice. And I think it's because people in the past had to treat each other nicely because they had to work together, or they were related, or they had to depend on each other. So I still try to keep that same value, to treat everyone kindly, because this island is so small and we're all connected somehow.
And I think one thing we want to do in our History Society is interview people around, because there's a lot of famous people that are related to Waialua. There's probably a lot of people that have done amazing things that we may not always know about, you know, because it was a good place to grow up. You know, you would have a healthy personality and interesting ability to do things.
People want to make sure that it's here for the younger generation, and that, you know, it's not going to be like lost for the younger ones to enjoy. Yeah. So we want to keep it like you said. I don't know if you know the organization called Keep the Country Country. So we want to see the natural state of our place. We don't want to see too much, I don't want to say destruction, but too much changes. You know, we want to see as much as possible the way it was, natural way it was from the days past.
And of course, our Waialua High School was like a pioneer in robotics. They're like the first big robotics successful program of any high school in Hawaii, probably in the whole country. They were among the first.
The way I look at it, you know, there's a good chance, a very good chance, that something good will come about from the younger ones, because they have the knowledge, they're intelligent, you know, they're very intelligent. The younger ones are very intelligent. They have, you know, the best tools, your computers, they got internet, they got so much tools that make them smarter. That's what Waialua is all about. That's what I can remember that Waialua was, that we live together in harmony, and we take care of each other, and that's what made Waialua special. You know, that we can all have fun and enjoy each other in aloha.
As the sun sets on Oahu's northern shores, basking Waialua in its golden afterglow, it paints a canvas of hope and promise. The past, with its trials and triumphs, has shaped this community. The present, with its unity and resilience, sustains it. And the future, with the dreams of generations, beckons it forward.